Jubilees, chapter 7. And in the 7th week of the first year thereof, in this Jubilee, Noah planted vines on the mountain on which the ark had rested, named Lubar, one of the Ararat mountains, and they produced fruit in the 4th year. And he guarded their fruit, and gathered it in this year in the 7th month. And he made wine from that and put it into a vessel and kept it until the 5th year, until the first day, on the new moon of the first month. And he celebrated with joy the day of this feast. And he made a burnt sacrifice to the Lord, one young ox and one ram and 7 sheep, each a year old, and a kid of the goats, that he might make atonement thereby for himself and his sons. And he prepared the kid first and placed some of its blood on the flesh that was on the altar, which he had made. And all the fat he laid on the altar where he made the burnt sacrifice, and the ox and the ram and the sheep, and he laid all their flesh on the altar. And he placed all their offerings mingled with oil on it. And afterward, he sprinkled wine on the fire which he had previously made on the altar. And he placed incense on the altar and caused a sweet savor to ascend, acceptable before the Lord his God. And he rejoiced and drank of this wine, he and his children with joy. And it was evening, and he went into his tent. And being drunken, he lay down and slept, and was uncovered in his tent as he slept. And Ham saw his father Noah naked, and went out and told his 2 brothers outside. And Shem took his garment and arose, he and Japheth, and they placed the garment on their shoulders, and went backward and covered the shame of their father, and their faces were backward. And Noah awoke from his sleep and knew all that his younger son had done to him. And he cursed his son and said, Cursed be Canaan, he will be an enslaved servant to his brothers. And he blessed Shem and said, Blessed is the Lord God of Shem, and Canaan will be his servant. God will enlarge Japheth, and God will dwell in the dwelling of Shem, and Canaan will be his servant. And Ham knew that his father had cursed his younger son, and he was displeased that he had cursed his son, and he parted from his father, he and his sons with him, Cush, Mizraim, and Put, and Canaan. And he built a city for himself and called its name after the name of his wife, Ne'alatama UK. And Japheth saw it and became envious of his brother. And he too built a city for himself, and he called its name after the name of his wife, Adataneses. And Shem dwelt with his father Noah, and he built a city close to his father on the mountain, and he too called its name after the name of his wife, Settle-Ketobab. And behold, these 3 cities were near Mount Lubar, Settle-Ketobab fronting the mountain on its east, and Na-Elatam UK on the south, and Adataneses toward the west. And these are the sons of Shem, Elam, and Asher, and Araphaxad. This son was born 2 years after the flood, and Lud, and Aram. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Japhan, Tubal, and Meshach, and Tyrus. These are the sons of Noah. And in the 28th Jubilee, Noah began to prescribe on his sons the ordinances and commands and all the judgments that he knew. And he exhorted his sons to observe righteousness and to cover the shame of their flesh, and to bless their Creator, and honor father and mother, and love their neighbor, and guard their souls from fornication and uncleanness and all iniquity. For owing to these three things the flood came on the earth, namely, owing to the fornication wherein the watchers against the law of their ordinances went whoring after the daughters of men, and took wives for themselves for all which they chose. And they made the beginning of uncleanness, and they begot sons, the Nephilim, or the Nephidim, and they were all different, and they devoured one another. And the giant slew the Nephil, and the Nephil slew the Eljo, and the Eljo mankind, and one man another. And everyone sold himself to work iniquity, and to shed much blood, and the earth was filled with iniquity. And after this, they sinned against the beast and birds and all the that moves and walks on the earth. And much blood was shed on the earth. And every imagination and desire of men they imagined was vanity and evil continually. And the Lord destroyed everything from off the face of the earth because of the wickedness of their deeds and because of the blood which they had shed in the midst of the earth. He destroyed everything, and we were left, you and I, my sons, and everything that entered with us into the ark. And behold, I see your works before me, that you do not walk in righteousness. For you have begun to walk in the path of destruction, and you are parting from one another, and are envious of one another. And so it is that you are not in harmony, my sons, each with his brother. For I see and behold that the demons have begun their seductions against you and against your children. And now I fear on your behalf that after my death you will shed the blood of men on the earth, and that you too will be destroyed from the face of the earth. For whoever shed man's blood, and whoever eats the blood of any flesh, will all be destroyed from the earth. And there will not be left any man that eats blood, or that sheds the blood of man on the earth. Nor will there be left to him any seed or descendants living under the heavens, for they will go into Sheol, and they will descend into the place of condemnation, and into the darkness of the depth, that they will all be removed by a violent death. No blood will be seen on you, for all the blood there will be all the days in which you have killed any beast or cattle or whatever flies on the earth, and work a good work for your souls by covering that which has been shed on the face of the earth. And you will not be like him who eats with blood, but guard yourselves that none may eat blood before you. Cover the blood, for thus I have been commanded to testify to you and your children, together with all flesh. And do not permit the soul to be eaten with the flesh, that your blood, which is your life, may not be required at the hand of any flesh that sheds it on the earth. For the earth will not be clean from the blood which has been shed on it. For only through the blood of him that shed it will the earth be purified throughout all its generations. And now, my children, listen. Work judgment and righteousness, that you may be planted in righteousness over the face of the whole earth, and your glory will be lifted up before my God, who saved me from the waters of the flood. And behold, you will go and build cities for yourselves, and plant in them all the plants that are on the earth, and moreover, all fruit bearing trees. For 3 years, the fruit of everything that is eaten will not be gathered. And in the fourth year, its fruit will be accounted holy, acceptable before the Most High God, who created the heavens and earth and all things. Let them offer in abundance the first of the wine and oil as first fruits on the altar of the Lord, who receives it. And let the servants of the house of the Lord eat what is left before the altar, which receives it. And in the 5th year, make the release, so that you release it in righteousness and uprightness. And you will be righteous, and all that you plant will prosper. For thus did Enoch, the father of your father, command Methuselah, his son, and Methuselah, his son Lamech. And Lamech commanded me all the things which his fathers commanded him. And I also will give you command, my sons, as Enoch commanded his son in the first Jubilees. While still living, the 7th in his generation, he commanded and testified to his son and to his son's sons until the day of his death.